We're dissecting the Sam Darnold trade a week after it was made, and Miles Bridges continues to eviscerate humans on the court. This is the Crown Score Podcast. Welcome to Crown Score. John Ellis, Reggie Walker, Kevin Stewart here for another week of Panthers and Hornets talk. We've had a week to digest this Sam Darnold trade. Let's jump right into it. Just to remind you, they gave up a 6th-round pick this year and a 2nd and 4th next year. He's thrown 39 picks in 38 games. He's had no one to throw to. He's had a bad offensive line. He's been in that awful Adam Gase system, and he's been with an organization that's been notoriously bad for over half a century. Are we okay with what the Panthers gave up for this guy? I mean, should they have waited for potentially a guy with maybe a better fit, or are we happy with this trade?
Personally, I think it's fine. Honestly, Billy and I talked about this on our podcast last night, that the 6th rounder this year doesn't hurt them too bad. I think that's fine. You hate giving them compensation the year after this, but I think it's okay. Sam gets a chance, like we talked about last week, to come in and rehabilitate his career. A lot of folks have been down on Sam for, the mechanics, not great footwork in the pocket. Just kind of wipe the slate clean of all that. He had Adam Gase. There was some dysfunction in that organization that gets overlooked, I think, by some who tend to knock Darnold down a notch. He didn't have anything to throw to. I mean, we talk about Cam Newton not having weapons last year. The same could be said about Sam in a lot of ways.
Right.
And now he's in a system that's comfortable for him with Joe Brady. You've got Robbie Anderson back in the fold. You're going to have DJ Moore, one of the underrated receivers in this league. Christian McCaffrey coming back. I'm looking forward to it.
You're muted, Reg.
In a lot of ways, John, I agree with you. And what I mean by that is, let me say it this way first. And I said this last week. I like they were aggressive enough to go get who they think is the solution. I don't love Sam Darnold. Didn't love him coming out of college. I thought his turnover numbers, even in college, just scared me. Scared the bejesus out of me, if you will. And you look at what the numbers you just mentioned, was it 39 interceptions in 38 games?
Yes.
That just speaks right to that number, right? So that's number one. But I will say this, and this is how I look at it. The organization, at least, thinks that they have gotten better. I think that they have slightly improved the offensive line, which wasn't going to be hard to do. You just need 4 or 5 guys with a pulse, and they would be better than that group that they had last year. That group really struggled. And I don't mean that to disparage those guys personally. They just didn't play well, period. And so the organization, I think, feels like that group is better. But here's what I will say, because they're getting ready to pick up that option on Sam Darnold, right? And the picks next year. If he has a year to where he's, I don't know, let's throw out some numbers. Let's just say he's upside down touchdowns to interceptions, right? In any way that is, I think you're going to have a problem, because now you are stuck with Sam Darnold for 2 years, and you have thought that you improved the team, and you've got McCaffrey back, right? You thought that you improved the team, particularly in the offensive line, and you got rid of the problem, right? Because for a lot of people, the problem has been Teddy Bridgewater. They don't want to look at anything else. They don't want to look at how bad the offensive line is. They don't want to look at the fact that McCaffrey was hurt most of the year. They don't want to take this.
That's how social media works, though, Rich. That's how social media works.
But it's not just even social media. It's everybody. And if you take this in a reverse chronological context, look, I'll say it. The reason why Cam Newton is not here is because the offensive line has been bad for years. Yeah. The reason why Christian McCaffrey is struggling is because the offensive line has been bad for years, right? And so when you look at that, you realize there's other problems on this football team. I know we'll get into AJ Bouye later, but I think he was an important acquisition as well, because personally, to me, Dante Jackson is at best a 3rd corner in this league. That is not a guy you need starting. I like him as a player, but he's at best a 3rd corner in this league. So there are so many different pieces to why this team is not winning at the level that so many people hope and expect. But I do like that the organization was willing to stick by their convictions, if you will, and go get a guy in Sam Darnold that they like. And having his doppelganger here on Crown Score Podcast certainly helps us out. Shout out to John Ellis. Certainly helps us out as well. Once we get the hair going, we'll be in good shape. But again, what we don't want to see is Sam Darnold talking about, what did he say? Seeing ghosts in the pocket. That's what we don't want. We don't want that version here. And the problem is, I think if you start to see that version, then you see an organization that's starting to kind of look around and go, what are we doing here?
It's very much like Bridgewater. It's an audition time. I mean, this is what Bridgewater was all about last year. It was audition time for Teddy, not only for Carolina, but for the rest of the league. And Teddy, you know, I'm with you, Reggie. It wasn't great in terms of the offensive line. There were struggles on defense, but Teddy didn't play well down the stretch, and he didn't pass that test. So this is going to be the same deal with Darnold. He's a bit younger, of course. He's got, I think, a higher ceiling maybe than Teddy does at this point in his career, but it's very much an audition for the young guy.
Listen, I'm with you guys. I'm always the one that says the offensive line needs to be built. I mean, I was an Eli Manning apologist for years because the offensive line wasn't built properly for him. But the offensive line didn't fumble at the goal line in Green Bay. The offensive line didn't throw a late pick against the Falcons on a Thursday night. The offensive line didn't throw a late pick against the Bears or the Raiders either. You know, Bridgewater.
Just one more thing. It's a big year for Joe Brady too, by the way. I mean,
it's a huge year for Brady.
This may be his last year here, by the way, because there's a lot of hype around this guy. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't all great last year. I mean, I know he did some good things. He came in, set up some good concepts. This is a big year for him. I would like to think, just based on what I've heard, Teddy Bridgewater was very much handpicked by Matt Rule and Joe Brady. And now you got a situation again where I would imagine Joe Brady had a little bit of input in the Sam Darnold deal, a little bit at least, maybe not the total final say, of course not. But it's a big year. He's finally got a quarterback with some upside. Let's see what he can do.
Let me add to that point, because I'm glad you said that, because this is a point I've been wanting to make for a long time on this show. This comes down to development also. Sam Darnold still just going into his fourth year, right? Let's just say he doesn't play great this year and he and Joe Brady return. If there is no improvement, they both got to go. Not only because the player isn't good enough, but also because we now know that Joe Brady is not a developer of talent at the quarterback position. I'd say this all the time. People say you go find a quarterback and you build your offense around that quarterback. All those guys flame out. You know why? Because when everybody figures out that you can only do this one thing, and I'm talking to the Lamar Jackson fans right now, and I love Lamar, but I'm not sure Lamar is being developed by Greg Roman. Greg Roman is saying, this is what you can do right now, and I'm going to make sure we keep doing what you can do right now. No, Greg Roman, I need you to help this young man add things to his resume, add things to his repertoire, and truly develop the player into what he needs to be to win in the National Football League. And I think that's why you're starting to see and it starts at the college level. That's why you're starting to see coaches at the college level play the transfer game at the quarterback position, because they don't want to develop anybody. There are no more teachers. There are no more true teachers of the position.
Pressure's on. You got to win now.
That's exactly right. Right. So they go to the freshman, and then 2 years later, they go to the freshman again because he has more upside. But the problem is none of these coaches are helping get to the upside. And so you're seeing that in the National Football League as well, which is why you look at a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, probably on his way out, right, in San Francisco.
They gave him a massive contract, too, and they never developed him.
Right. Sam Darnold shipped out of the Jets. We can talk about the organization being bad all we want. He hasn't developed as a player. Then you turn around and you go to the Buffalo Bills. They bring in Brian Daboll, who was a college guy who helped to mold guys like Tua and Mac Jones and Jalen Hurts as well. He gets to Buffalo with Josh Allen and develops Josh Allen and adds pieces. You better find a damn teacher to work with your quarterback, because I don't see any organizations truly consistently developing quarterbacks.
And I've had some Bills fans reach out to me that I know, and they've said that if the roles were switched, if Josh Allen was a Jet and Sam Darnold was a Bill, possibly now Sam Darnold will be flourishing in that system in Buffalo because they developed the talent. You know what I mean?
Look, it's not an invalid argument. I mean, this gets back to a couple of things here. It's more than just develop. I'm with you, Reggie. You got to develop these guys, but schematics, consistency in terms of play calling, and you got to have talent around you to succeed. Josh Allen has been blessed with a great defense on the other side with Sean McDermott, Eric Roberts, those guys building a bully on defense. Offensively, they got a good running game. They've added Stephon Diggs. They've got a great offensive line. And Brian Daboll is a good developer, as you said. So they've got the whole thing working for Josh Allen. Sam was rotting on the vine last year. It was awful to watch, and I felt bad for the kids. So this is, like I said, I'm open for it, not just because of the hair, folks. Because I think he really can make an impact here in Carolina.
Hey, John, you just made a hell of a point. Did you just say it takes an entire team to win at a high level?
You believe it or not?
What a concept!
What here on Twitter and Facebook, it still takes 11.
I mean, if you let, to your point, if you let Twitter and Facebook tell it, you just need a quarterback. Nothing else matters.
That's it.
Tell me about it.
No receivers.
But
nothing.
there's a reason why football is called the ultimate team sport.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just leave it at that.
That's a good point.
Are we okay with how aggressive David Tepper has been so far? He's entering his third year of ownership. He's going to be his third different starting quarterback. He said he's been vocal about saying you need a big time quarterback to win. Do we think maybe he was too aggressive in going out and get a Darnold at this point, or maybe should we have waited another year with Teddy? I know a lot of people won't like to hear that, but my two options that were going into this season were going to be my two leading options were Teddy's going to be the quarterback or Darnold's going to be a dark horse. Yeah. I don't know if giving up this draft capital was the right move, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And you are right. This is a big year for Joe Brady. He has to make this work, especially if he wants to be considered as a head coach candidate going into next season.
I agree. I guess my issue.
Go ahead, Rich.
Thanks, John. I guess my issue is I don't know how much better the Panthers are at quarterback, right?
Right.
Am I going to sit here and say that they're not improved at all? I'm not going to say that because, but at the same time, I don't really know what Sam Darnold is. And so that's where my issue is, right? Is they made this move. It's a bold move, right? They got younger at the position. They got, quote unquote, more upside, all those things. But again, I'm not sure that at the quarterback position alone, I'm not going to talk about the entire football team. At the quarterback position alone, I'm not sure how much better this team is at that position with this acquisition. And if I can't unequivocally say that they are a tier or several notches at least better, then I don't know that it was worth it to give up per se so much, even though those picks, to me, a sixth this year, a fourth next year, no big deal.
And a second.
Right, that's the one, that's the pick where I start to go, maybe that was a little bit rich. But other than that, I don't have a whole big issue with the trade. But again, I'm still not sure that you're that much better at the quarterback position.
Right, but they do need to buy in now. I mean, it's a change of scenery for Darnold. He has weapons, as we've alluded to in the show. Hopefully, they improve the offensive line a touch more. But I mean, this is it. This is it for Darnold. I mean, this is his chance to prove it.
This is going to be it for more than just Darnold. This is going to be
for Matt Rule in a lot of ways. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Let's just be. This is Dave Tepper's fourth year. We talked to Joe Person about this in our podcast. He's very clear. Joe covers his team as close as anybody. Dave Tepper wants two things. He wants to start winning games, and he wants a roof. Those are two things that Dave Tepper really wants. And, this is a big year for Matt. That 7-year contract, it looks less and less attractive to Matt the more games he loses. I mean, it's great to talk about patience. Rome wasn't built in a day. And then all of a sudden, the first year rolls around, we're trying to trade for Matt Stafford, and we're talking to Sean Watson. And it makes you wonder what the process is. So again, it felt impulsive to me. All of it's felt a little impulsive to me.
Right,
but hey, Dave's made a lot of gambles. He with his distress debt, whatever it was. I'm not a stock market guy, but he always looks for things outside the box. And this could very well be one of those things that pays off.
My only fear with Tepper is this, and I think I've been in the same room with Tepper. I'm not going to sit here and say I know the guy, but I've been in the same room with him. I've been around him a little bit. And the interesting thing to me is I've always said this, right? Owners own, GMs GM, and coaches coach. And I think right now he's so aggressive as an owner in trying to win. Look, there's whether it's folks can be mad at Marty if they want, who's no longer here, or now Scott Fitterer. I think it's up to Tepper to understand, Scott, if you're a guy that you want to be aggressive every year and you don't want to go, slow and steady wins the race and you want to get after it, then let him get after it. And if it doesn't work after 4 or 5 years, then you dump him and you find someone else. But I think the thing I'm interested to see right now is how much of this, for lack of a better term, kind of knee-jerk aggressive reaction to we need that big-time quarterback is the owner, or is it the GM, or is it the coach pushing up to those guys? What does that dynamic look like? Because if Matt Rule is the guy that's saying, look, I would have stayed with Teddy or go get me a rookie this year and we'll build him and develop him, and Fitterer and Tepper went against that, then to your point, John, I don't know that 7-year contract is in as much danger, right? But on the flip side of that, if he's a part of these conversations and these things don't work, that 7-year contract starts to look real interesting to David Tepper.
Look, when you give Bridgewater the contract you gave him, looking at the tape that had led up to that, every move they make moving forward deserves a little scrutiny, and that's just fair game. That's the name of the business. I love it. It's not Teddy's fault they gave him $33 million guaranteed. Go get paid.
Right.
I think it's great. He had an opportunity. He did his best. He got hurt. Things didn't go his way on the other side of the ball defensively. They didn't play up to their standard in the middle of the season. They got better, but Teddy didn't play up to his standard. He didn't play up to that contract. So I think, moving forward, Dave Tepper, I think, wants to do good things here. I really do. I think he's got his heart and his mind in the right place. He's not trying to move the team away or pocket money here. He's trying to win. It's just like Pat Kerwin once said, you got to learn how to own. It's like, to your point, Reggie, I mean, you got to owner's own, GM's GM, coach's coach. You got to learn how to own too. Look at first-time owners over the past 10 years. The Browns, the Bills, they've all struggled out of the box with their first hires. So it'll be fascinating. It's year 4 for Tepper. It's a big one.
Well, Sam Darnold wasn't the latest move that Scott Fitterer made. I think maybe possibly overlooked this week was the signing of AJ Bouye at the cornerback position, which I think is a fantastic move. And considering it's a position of dire need, Reggie, as you said earlier, Dante Jackson, you don't know if he's a number 1 corner. I said it about a month ago that I didn't know if Troy Pride is ready to be the number 2. But with the addition of AJ Bouye, it kind of eases all that. And as we sit here, we're about 2 weeks out from the NFL draft. I think we can put the cornerback position off the radar of what the Panthers might do at 8. But let's say we're sitting at 8. Let's say the Panthers are sitting at 8. And let's say the Bengals take Kyle Pitts. And let's say the Dolphins take Jamar Chase. And the Lions are the wild card. And they might not go quarterback now because they had Jared Goff in the fold. If the Panthers are sitting there at 8 and they're staring at Rashawn Slater and Penei Sewell and Justin Fields at 8, where do they go?
Penei Sewell.
I agree. I hope so.
I think look, to me, this pick for the Panthers, and I'll say it in order. It's Penei Sewell, Patrick Surtain, or Kyle Pitts. In that order.
You would take Surtain over Slater if he's there?
Yes. And I like Slater. I think he's good.
Even with Bouye in the fold. Okay.
Yeah, because
they still need a lot of offensive line help.
I like Bouye, but he's also, if memory serves, he's 30.
He's 30.
That's number 1.
He's up there, yeah.
Number 2, I'm not sure he's a number 1, but he's a damn good number 2.
Well, I think on this team he's a number 1.
Well, yeah, on this team, but that's what I'm saying. All of a sudden,
I got you.
Surtain,
I got you.
You give him a year, probably 8 games, because the kid is super smart. And I've been around his father before, and I can just imagine if he's put half of the knowledge in his kid's head that he has, Surtain 2, right? S2, I'll call him, will be a good player in this league. So to me, I think you go if Sewell is there, you have to. That is a franchise left tackle, period. And those are harder to find, really, if you do the math. Those guys are generally harder to find, or just as hard to find as a franchise quarterback.
Well, I mean,
so to me, you go Sewell, then you go Surtain, then you go Kyle Pitts in that order.
Well, it's hard. I've heard analysts say this, and I'm not going to act like I'm an analyst, but they've said it's hard to evaluate these offensive linemen coming out of college. I mean, I think Tristan Wirfs last year was like the 3rd offensive tackle taken, and he's arguably the best one. So if you're going to take one, you got to make sure you hit on it.
Well, and part of that is evaluating the position. The good thing for Penei Sewell is he is a left tackle already. If you look at, and the one example I always use, and John, you probably know where I'm going with this, and Kev, you do too, because of our history together, Robert Galloway. That was a guy that when he came out of school, remember the Raiders put him on the other side from where he had ever played. And
second overall, right? Second overall pick.
Yeah, and I can tell you this, and I had this conversation, and we back in our TV days, Kevin, myself and Stink, Mark Schlereth actually went through this and did a demonstration on it. And the easiest way I can explain this to people is if you're an offensive lineman, let's just say you're a right tackle, and they move you to left tackle, your punch hand is different, your set foot is different. I wish I could stand up and show everybody what I mean. All these things.
You got a camera? Go ahead.
And the way to yeah, but I'm too big. I'm that's a whole nother. I used to be a corner, but now I look like I ate one. But the reality of it is to make it simple for people at home listening to us. If you're a right-handed person, put that pencil in your left hand and write that same sentence. That's what it's like when you switch sides.
That's why Taylor Moton's out there. That's why Moton's out on the right side, never turning back because he's right side dominant. And as you know, it's why Darrell Williams struggled at left tackle. Moton struggled there. There's plenty of examples of that. You're right about Gallery. That's an excellent example of a guy who was just misutilized. But generally speaking, I think here's what I find fascinating: if Pitts drops, I don't think he's dropping. I think he's going to the 49ers. I really do.
Who? Pitts?
No, Justin Fields.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I don't see any of those quarterbacks getting past 6.
No, I think 4 could go top. I think 4 could go top 4, and I still think the Falcons might go for Pitts. I think they could trade back possibly. I'm not convinced they're taking a quarterback.
They're a big wild card.
If Fields is sitting there at 8, by some chance, and they let him slide by, and then Fields takes off and has a Josh Allen type of run here.
But here's the only thing I'll say about that, because I think you're right. Here's the problem. You've already traded for Sam.
Yeah.
And at this point, as we send this podcast to you all at home listening, Teddy is still on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a lot of cap. And oh, by the way, Will Greer is still here.
Will Greer is still here. Mm-hmm. And who's trading for Teddy on that contract?
Nobody.
That's right.
And they're going to release him and take a cap hit. So, I mean, I think Teddy eventually will be released. I think that's how this ends, and they'll eat the money.
Yeah.
If I'm a GM, there's no shot.
No way.
I would trade for Teddy right now. You have to trade him. I mean, cut him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an awkward. It's an incredibly awkward situation.
I've heard Houston. I've heard Washington. Those teams have viable guys right now in the building. Hell, Washington just traded for Kyle Allen last year. They added Fitzpatrick. I don't see either one of those teams.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And hell, Houston picked up Tyrod Taylor.
We've all looked at Teddy's tape. I mean, look, the coaches, the evaluators out there know, unless you really have a good relationship with the guy. Minnesota, I could see him going back there as a backup. I could see him going back to the Jets, maybe.
Yeah, but are you going to trade for a $20 million backup? No,
I'm not.
Guys, the thing that scares me about Teddy is when they cut him, he could do one of two things. He could go to Chicago and eventually take over for Dalton, right? Or he could go back to New Orleans and be a pain in the you-know-what of this Panthers organization.
I think that would send Panthers Twitter off the rails if he came in here.
Yes, because
the Saints and beat the Panthers in Carolina.
Dude, Panthers,
dude, Sean Payton can
where are you, Teddy?
and Sean Payton can develop quarterbacks.
Yeah, Sean Payton will win games no matter who's quarterbacking that team.
Sean Payton got Kerry Collins, an offensive-led team, to a Super Bowl in New York as an offensive coordinator.
Watch the Kerry Collins slander.
I got nothing to say.
I'm just making sure.
His 4
I'm
interceptions.
gonna protect my Penn State guys.
His 4 interception Super Bowl record was beaten the next year by Rich Gannon. Thank you, Rich.
That is a fact.
Another former Panther, by the way.
Another one.
That's right. I thought you were going to say Rich Gannon. Okay, so let's pivot to the Hornets. I mean, there's not much to them this week. I mean, they had that loss Sunday against Atlanta, that matinee, but they have the Lakers on Tuesday with no LeBron and no AD. Cleveland on a back-to-back Wednesday. Then it gets tough. They got Brooklyn at Brooklyn Friday, Portland here on Sunday, and then they go right back to New York City to host the Knicks, or to play the Knicks, who are playing some real good basketball. I mean, it's a tough stretch for Charlotte, and this is, they might get Malik Monk back soon, but this is a stretch where they really need to show what they're made of, and they have been so far with that 4-2 road trip.
Well, they're 7-4 so far right now without LaMelo Ball. I mean, that's pretty good. And so you look at that, and then you add to that, they also lost, as you mentioned, Monk. And Gordon Hayward's not at
44% of their offense.
So, you lose all that, and you're still finding ways to win games and staying in the fight. I tell you what, this team could get interesting by playoff time. If they can sneak in there, all of a sudden you've got a LaMelo Ball who can't hit a rookie wall because he's been out for a month and a half. You've got a healthy, rested Gordon Hayward and Malik Monk. This team starts to, all of a sudden, it looks a little bit different going down the stretch. So I think right now they just have to continue to fight defensively and for lack of a better term, right, no pun intended, stay in the fight every night and for 48 minutes and then see where the chips fall.
I mean, and you had the development of all of a sudden Jalen McDaniels started that game Wednesday night in OKC, had dropped 21 points. I mean, he's stepping up. PJ Washington seems to be stepping up a little bit. And I'm going to declare right now, Miles Bridges, my favorite player in the NBA, has taken off. I mean, that dunk on Clint Capella on Sunday was incredible.
In lieu of flowers, you can send donations to Harvest Life Changers Church in the name of Clint Capella.
Miles is an absolute assassin. I hope he's here for the long term. I love that guy. He can dunk, he can shoot, he doesn't miss free throws. I mean, the guy has really turned into a hell of a player.
They're winning hearts and minds right now. I mean, they're winning games too. They're right in the mix, but the Hornets are on the highlight reel every night, whether it's Ball making incredible passes, whether it's the posterization we saw with Bridges, Eric Collins sizzle reel on Twitter from one of the networks. It's a fun team to watch. And their coach, by the way, probably doing one of the best jobs in the league right now. So I just think they're peaking at the right time. If they get these guys healthy, they come back and they can make a little run here. We'll see.
They're catching the league-wide respect that they deserve.
That's it.
And let me say this, guys, because I need to. I hope Miles Bridges is listening right now. Miles Bridges, I apologize, bro. When you came out of college, I kept saying, I don't know if this dude has a skill set. Guess what I figured out? You got all of the skill sets. You are a versatile player that can shoot it well enough, can finish at the rim very well.
Clearly.
Can put it on the floor, a willing passer. Like he listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that Miles Bridges is an elite passer, an elite jump shooter. I'm not saying that. But Miles, you have developed your game and you are able and capable of doing multiple things with the basketball in your hands. So for that and me saying you don't have a skill set, hey, Miles, my bad, dog. I apologize. My bad, dog. And I'm patting my chest. My bad, dog.
Listen, I'm over buying jerseys of guys in the league now because I'm much, much older than them now. I might have to.
It's also because they're going to change teams.
Yeah. I might have to make an exception for Miles.
I also like the number he wears. That's what makes it a little bit different. You know what I mean?
It's weird that my favorite two players in the league wear 0 with him and Dame. It's kind of funny how that works.
Though. But that, as the kids say, that 0 hit different.
Hey, John, Robert Parrish played here, right? Did he wear 00 when he played here in Charlotte?
He did. Robert Parrish. Back in the Tyvola days, he wore 00. Yes, sir. Now we would go get some Sonny's barbecue and then head over to the Coliseum. See Robert Parrish from the 00.
Yeah.
All right, boys. I think we're done here.
Are we?
On.
You want? I don't know. I got 8 minutes left on the Zoom here. I got the free version. It's a very low budget here on Crown Score.
I mean, we got. Listen, we've got Sam Darnold live on Crown Score. We got to keep going.
Are we live? It's live. We'll do it live.
If anybody can see us right now, they're looking at John Ellis with
Sam Darnold, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, hey, that's all.
I missed
saying.
that one. All right.
It's out there.
Sam Darnold's fat uncle, ladies and gentlemen.
Go get ready for that big press conference. All right, boys. We'll see y'all next week.
It's been good.